Welcome to the Siriraj x MIT Hacking Medicine 2025 conference under the theme AI Today Transforming Tomorrow's Healthcare.
We're thrilled to have all of you here today, medical professionals, engineers, entrepreneurs, designers, and change makers. Thank you for joining us to explore how artificial intelligence can shape the future of healthcare.
Before we begin, may I kindly invite everyone to stand and observe 1 minute of silence in remembrance of the passing of Her Majesty Queen Sirikit, the Queen Mother. Thank you. Please be seated.
Now, to officially open our conference, please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Apichat Asavamongkolkul, Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Siriraj Hospital, Mahidol University, to deliver the opening remarks. Please join me in welcoming
Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. It is a great honor to welcome you all to our conference, AI Today, Transforming Tomorrow's Healthcare. Today, we stand at the defining moment in healthcare, a moment where human compassion meets the transformative power of artificial intelligence. Together, they are reshaping the way we care, cure, and connect. We are privileged to be joined by some of the world's foremost leaders in healthcare innovation. From the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Stanford University, King's College London, Nanyang Technological University, and Singapore Management University. I would like to extend our warmest welcome to our distinguished speakers, Professor Grimson, Chancellor of Academic Advancement from MIT, Dr. Michael McConnell from Stanford, Sastry from MIT Hacking Medicine, Professor Anjali Sastry from MIT Sloan, and Professor George Cardoso from King's College London, Dr. Chiang Wai Yang from Singapore Management University, and Dr. Lam Kwok Yan from NTU. Your insights and global perspectives will guide us explore how AI can bring new meaning to healthcare in this region and beyond. This conference follows the incredible success of Siriraj MIT Hacking Medicine Hackathon 2025, held right here just days ago. This year, we received over 1,000 applicants from 33 countries, and we have carefully selected 200 participants to join the hackathon. For 3 extraordinary days, our hospital came alive with energy. Doctors, engineers, designers, and entrepreneurs from around the world collaborating to solve real-world health challenges through innovation. From that event, we saw ideas that went beyond technology, ideas born from empathy, teamwork, and courage to reimagine the future of care. I am proud to share that 3 exceptional individuals have earned golden tickets to represent Thailand at MIT Grand Hack 2026, where they will continue their journey of turning ideas into impact. These two initiatives, the hackathon and today's conference, are part of Siriraj's broader vision to cultivate an ecosystem where innovation thrives at the intersection of medicine, technology, and humanity. We are delighted to deepen our partnership with MIT to go beyond hackathon to create the real-world impact. The creation of Healthy Lab, Office Hour, and fireside chats mark the continued commitment to transform ideas into the real-world impact. Artificial intelligence is transforming every facet of healthcare, from predictive diagnostics and personalized medicine to hospital operations and population health. Yet, the heart of this transformation is not the algorithm, it is the people, clinicians, researchers, students, and innovators who choose to use technology with purpose and compassion. At Siriraj, we believe that AI should not replace the human touch by amplifying it, and enabling doctors to spend more time with patients, empowering hospitals to reach more communities, and allowing innovation to make healthcare more equitable and accessible for all. We are deeply grateful to our partners and sponsors, Krungthai Bank, the National Innovation Agency, PNF Foundation, Muang Thai Assurance, InterSystems, and many more, for sharing this vision and for supporting our journey to build a future-ready healthcare system. As we begin today's conference, I invite everyone to think boldly, to collaborate across disciplines, and to imagine together how AI can transform tomorrow's healthcare, not just with intelligence, but with our hearts. Thank you, and I wish you all a truly inspiring and meaningful day. Thank you very much. ขอบคุณมากครับ
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Apichat Asavamongkolkul, for your inspiring words and vision.
Before we dive into our keynote sessions, may I kindly ask Professor Apichat to take a photo with our honorable guests. May I also invite all of our honorable guests to come up on the stage and join us for the group photo. Thank you very much to all our honorable guests for joining us and for making the Siriraj x MIT conference possible. Now that the conference has officially begun, let's begin our first keynote. The topic is AI and Medicine, a collaboration between engineers and doctor.
In this session, we are so honored to be joined by Professor Eric L. Grimson, the Chancellor for Academic Advancement at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, since fall 2013. As one of the Institute's most senior academic officers, he is a central advisor to President Sally Kornbluth on the Institute's fundraising campaign's shape and strategy. Professor Eric Grimson is internationally recognized for his research in computer vision, especially in applications in medical image analysis. He and his students have applied computer vision methods to medical image analysis, built systems used to help neurosurgeons plan and execute minimally invasive surgeries, and designed methods to measure changes in brain structures caused by diseases such as schizophrenia and Alzheimer's.
and Dr. Anjali Sastry, the Senior Lecturer in System Dynamics at the MIT Sloan School of Management. Her work connects system thinking, management, and design thinking with global health and action learning. These research interests translate into teaching innovation at MIT Sloan. She has led dozens of teams of graduate students at Global Health Lab, a popular elective class that partners every year with selected enterprises on the front lines of healthcare delivery. Please welcome Professor Eric Grimson and Professor Anjali Sastry.
Good morning. Let's try that again. Good morning. Thank you. I'm glad that we're all awake. I'm also delighted to see that you're all behaving like MIT students. You're sitting at the back of the class, but we'll make it work. I want to describe for you how MIT is empowering new discoveries and new applications in medicine by applying AI techniques to health science questions. We do this by working collaboratively with the Harvard hospitals, partnering with clinicians and surgeons to understand the practical needs of healthcare professionals, and then working to build solutions that we can transform at scale to have large impact. Part of that transformation is we also work with corporations, like our 10-year partnership with Takeda from Japan, or IBM Health, because we want to make sure that those applications really get out at very large scale. Now, before I actually talk about specific examples of using AI in medicine, I want to set the stage by describing how MIT thinks about educating students and how that impacts research. Seems like a strange place to start, but it gives you a sense of why MIT tackles this problem in a particular way. When we educate students, we certainly want them to acquire domain knowledge about biology, knowledge about physics. But we also think every student should be able to do several other things. They should be able to communicate effectively. If they have a great idea and can't explain it, it doesn't help. My generation wanted to be the next Churchill. Today's generation wants to be the next Barack Obama, but whatever is a great way to think about communication. We also want them to be able to be great team players. Discoveries today are rarely a lone wolf phenomena. It's combinations of people working together. We want them to be able to think both critically and analytically. But most importantly, we want them to be able to think computationally, which is a strange change. And MIT's way of addressing this was when 5 years ago we launched the MIT Schwarzman College of Computing. This was a $1 billion commitment by MIT to change the way we think both about education, so how the curriculum changes, but especially how that changes the way we do research, and the kind of faculty members we hire, who tend to be bridges between computation and other disciplines. I want to very quickly show you how we've changed the curriculum and how that impacts research in medicine. We call this common ground subjects. And the idea here is we want to embed computation in every part of our curriculum. So rather than a student taking a standalone course in machine learning, they see it in the context of biology, of physics, of mechanical engineering, of economics, of planning. And they want to use that to leverage the way they actually approach problems in that domain. We talk about this as creating computational bilinguals. They need to be fluent in the language of computing and the language of their discipline. So a very quick example. One of the most popular courses at MIT today, not surprisingly, is an Introduction to Machine Learning. It's a nice small class of 650 students, with about 100 of them coming from Harvard, which is always a great sign for MIT. But the point of this course is it's divided into two halves. The first half of the semester, students learn about the fundamentals of machine learning, the underlying mathematics, the algorithms, the methods, taught by world-famous machine learning experts. In the second half of the term, students select one of 7 different options where they then see those methods in a discipline. It could be for sustainable systems. It could be physical systems. So think of a physics or mechanical engineering or aero-astro student. But it could also be in biological systems, whether that's biological engineering or fundamental biology and chemistry, as well as other areas. So the students see those techniques in a discipline. And that influences the way we think about research. By the way, those classes are taught jointly by an expert from that discipline and an expert in machine learning. And it changes the kind of faculty member we hire today. Our young faculty tend to bridge between biology and machine learning, or urban planning and machine learning, or economics and machine learning. And we do this in a range of other courses. I'm simply going to put the list up, but we teach many of our classes now with computation as a fundamental underlying aspect. Now, what does that have to say about the topic for today? And the answer is, our students are different, our faculty are different, and we really think about embedding AI and machine learning in almost every part of the Institute. Now, we're MIT, we cheat. We're a science and engineering school, but even our philosophy department, our economics department, our Sloan School of Management, our urban studies department has machine learning embedded in the research they do. And for today, I want to talk about how MIT approaches thinking about changing work in medicine. MIT's fortunate. We don't have a medical school. No disrespect, we don't have the challenges of running a medical school, but we borrow Harvard's whenever we want to use it. It's a great collaboration. And we've just launched an initiative with a wonderful acronym. It's called MIT HEALS, Health, Engineering, and Life Sciences. And it is the merger of engineering with the health disciplines. And the kinds of things we focus on here are collaborations with the Harvard hospitals on creating new devices for sensing and monitoring physiological signals with minimal impact on patients. I'll show you some examples. Creating new methods for detecting diseases, especially at very early stages, to support surveillance and early intervention. New methods for treating diseases, new ways to deliver treatments very specialized to the specifics of a patient. And new discoveries, especially new discoveries of drugs that are going to be important in rolling out healthcare at large scale. So, I'm going to show you some examples, but let me describe the way in which we interact. One of the key elements of HEALS is a partnership with Mass General and Brigham and Women's Hospital, two of the major Harvard hospitals. And that collaboration includes, among other things, a SEED program, where faculty from MIT partner with clinicians and surgeons to propose projects where they get initial funding in order to get the early results that hopefully will allow them to then get support from NIH or NSF or ARPA-E or other federal agencies. The first round of calls for proposals, out of 1,000 faculty members at MIT, we got over 100 proposals. We funded about 20 of them. And the early focus is on mental health, neurodegenerative diseases, AI-enabled diagnostics, and digital health. But we will roll this out with scale to build on that partnership. The second part of it is a postdoc program funded by a very generous contribution from an MIT alum. And the idea of the postdocs are that they're a bridge. They spend half their time at the Harvard Hospital helping educate the clinicians and surgeons on AI. What is it? What can it do? What does it not do? When you should trust it? And how it's going to have impact on their problems. And they spend the other half of their time at MIT educating faculty and students on what are the problems that really matter in the clinic or in the OR. What are the practical problems that need to be solved, and how do we translate that into something that we could actually tackle? You see here a list also of some of the original initiatives around there, a new initiative on pediatrics, a new initiative on women's health, but especially a new initiative that is taking edge AI and new semiconductors to create a new generation of sensors, personalized to the patient, that can monitor symptoms and provide both input to clinicians, but potentially also adjust the treatment of the patient. Much like today, you see people with a glucose sensor for diabetes. We're looking at a whole new generation of those sensors. But now let me show you some examples of problems that MIT is trying to tackle, almost all of them involving a clinician or surgeon working together with an MIT faculty member. I'm going to start with was going to say one of my favorites. I shouldn't say that. Just like all of your children are your favorite child, all of the projects at MIT are my favorite project, but one that I think has great impact. Two colleagues were interested in antibiotic-resistant bacterial infections. And so they built a deep learning system that had within it embedded a lot of structural knowledge about chemistry and biology. They trained it on a very large library of known molecules and variants, but they designed the system to look for examples that were likely to have impact on a particular infection, but were far away from known antibiotics. They've used it so far to tackle 2 examples where they have found a new drug that actually has been demonstrated to be extremely effective in killing disease-causing antibiotic-resistant bacterial infections, a staph infection, and an A. Bowman infection. And these are examples of molecules very different from previous antibiotics that have been used in the past. To show you how strange MIT is, these faculty members have discovered a new drug. They get to name it. And the first one they chose to call Halicin, H-A-L-I-C-I-N. ICIN, that sounds like the name of a drug. And how? They named it for the AI computer in 2001 and the movie. So they're nerds, they have no sense of humor, but they get to name the drug. More importantly, these drugs are now under testing to show that they can actually be used in an effective way. And it's a great example of using AI in a particular manner. The system recommended 20 different molecules, and they used their knowledge to pick the most promising one. Now that worked with a library of known drugs. They've generalized it. And now what they've done is say, why don't we just hypothesize potential molecules that don't exist? So they've generated hypothetical molecules, all possible combinations of 11 atoms of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, and sulfur. They've used it to find those fragments that are most likely to have an impact on a disease. In this case, a particular one that you can see there. And then they've created a generative AI system that takes that fragment and uses it to predict complete molecules that are likely to be stable, to exist, and to actually have impact on the disease. This is in early stages, but they've already shown in a mouse model that this new discovery is dealing with that particular disease. And we think this can change the way that drugs are found, to find things very different from existing things, but very effective on particular diseases. That deals with treatment. We're also really interested in detection. One of my colleagues is a world-leading expert in machine learning. She also happens to be a breast cancer survivor, which meant she was really interested in that disease. And so she built a deep learning imaging system that looks at mammograms, but is designed to look for the very early signals long before the tumor actually shows up. And rather than trying to use expertise to identify what to look at, you simply train the system on tiny patterns in those signals. Let me simply give you the impact of this. She has demonstrated, working with Mass General, on retrospective data that her system can spot the early signs with 85% accuracy that 5 years later will turn into a tumor that will be visible to a radiologist. And this allows you to do surveillance combined with other factors to think about how to provide the health care and to do the intervention early enough to have bigger impact. The third example is very different. It comes from a colleague who will tell you that she's a huge fan of Star Wars. She wants to feel the Force. And in her version, it works like this. There's a Wi-Fi signal in this room. If I make a motion, I very slightly disrupt that Wi-Fi signal. And she has built a device that could be sitting at the far end of the room, just a little crowded, but in a smaller setting, that will not only detect that disruption, but infer what the motion was that caused it. So let me tell you the things she can do. She can measure vital signs remotely, breathing rate, pulse rate. During COVID, we deployed this system in all of the Harvard hospitals so that nurses did not have to go into the ICU. They could simply monitor the patients. She can measure gait, how you walk, very accurately. Think of a patient with Parkinson's. This system, just watching the person in their home, can tell a clinician how that disease is progressing and how it might be treated, if you like. Think of elder care. Think of infant care, where you're monitoring the activities of this. She can detect disruptions in sleep state with nothing attached to the patient. And again, for diseases like Parkinson's, often that sleep disruption is an early sign of the onset of that disease. And there's a system that could be deployed in any setting, including in any home. So she gets to feel the force. But there are other examples, and I'm going to do the rest of these a little more quickly to leave time for some questions. But fourth example is to think about vaccines. And in particular, to think about flu. Every year there will be a new strain of the flu that comes along, and agencies will think about what's the most likely strain that is going to show up this year, and what's the best vaccine to treat it. This AI system predicts not only the likelihood of each viral strain, but also predicts the effectiveness of different vaccines on that strain. And the punchline, on retrospective data, this new system outperformed the World Health Organization's recommendation in 9 of the last 10 years. Not perfect, but it has a great job of predicting the likelihood so that agencies can plan ahead. I forgot how number I'm up to. I think this is my 5th or 6th example. ECG analysis for early interventions. Here, a deep learning system. The next speaker is going to do this a whole lot better than I will, but an early detection system that uses deep learning to predict the risk of heart failure just using a single lead. So without having to do the catheterization and the invasiveness of that. In comparison to that right heart catheterization, the system has comparable performance. Doesn't outperform it, but it's non-invasive. So with a single lead, you have the opportunity to monitor a patient. Prediction of nanoparticles to deliver vaccines more effectively. Just an example of using machine learning tools to accelerate the identification of the optimal ingredient mixtures in lipid nanoparticles to help target different cell types or to help incorporate different kinds of materials, especially for RNA kinds of vaccines. And my last example in the AI system, done by a colleague, is coupling computer graphics modeling of body shape and pose with fetal MRI. And what does that mean? You take an MRI of the fetus and you use this model to predict where the fetus is in that system. It both predicts the location and size of the fetus, but it creates a 3D representation, which allows you to do non-invasive measurement of things like head size or abdomen size, and compare these to metrics with healthy fetuses at the same age, by coupling that AI modeling with graphics to determine what is the best way to think about how this fetus is actually developing. These are all examples of using AI as a way of thinking about medicine. They're just a sampling of them. I want to give you 2 other examples, though, of ways in which HEALS is tackling health using other kinds of techniques, even though that's not part of the topic for today. And in particular, we see great activity at MIT in using nanoparticles as ways of, or nanomaterials. And I want to describe 2 examples for you of these. One is the work of a colleague, and I'm going to describe her latest result. She's an expert on quantum dots, the tiny particles that are in displays, that are in other kinds of devices. And she's figured out how to synthetically design ligands that will attach to those quantum dots. And those ligands are designed to want to dock with a cancer cell. So she creates a mixture of these. She's done a range of these, but the most recent one is she will create this assembly of quantum dots and create a vapor out of them. So a patient can simply, like an asthma inhaler, inhale the vapor, flows into the lungs. If there is an early tumor in the lung, as the particles flow by, they will tend to dock or attach to the tumor. When they do, it starts a small biochemical reaction that clips a piece of protease off of the tumor. And you wait for the biobreak. The kidneys concentrate it, and she has demonstrated that she can detect lung cancer at early stages with a urine test. Now, there could be other reasons to want to think about this, but you can imagine the advantage of being able to do this for a patient with a history that suggests that may be a worry. She has done the same kind of thing now with injections into the blood for other cancers. And she's demonstrated the ability to detect at early stages cancers in 8 to 10 different kinds of settings, again with just the injection of nanoparticles into the system. Other colleagues are looking at actually delivering therapy using nanoparticles. So again, create a combination of a pharmaceutical attached to a nanoparticle, injected into the system, and let the body trigger the response to generate the interaction of that particle with delivery of therapy. I'll give you one last example. Again, that colleague who did the asthma inhaler, she has shown that not only can you take nanoparticles, you can assemble them together to make a slightly larger structure with a hollow interior into which you inject chemotherapy. When you inject that into the body of an animal, as it flows through the system, when it gets near the tumor, it will attach. You can tell where the tumor is by simply flashing an ultraviolet light on the outside of the body because the nanoparticles glow. And then you just take a heat pad and place it over that part of the body. The heat breaks the particles apart, and it delivers the chemotherapy just to the tumor, not to the rest of the body. So again, changing the way in which you think about the interaction with these systems. I want to finish with some very strange projects. Moonshots. Things we'll see if they work or not, but they are certainly different, and if they do work, they're going to be exciting. And this shows that innovation of engineering with medicine that we hope will actually change things. Two colleagues are building a handheld MRI. Think about it. Now, it's not going to be a body scanner, but it will be able to do simple scans. And so for rural parts of the world, being able to do a scan and ship it to an expert at another setting could be an exciting way of thinking about how you actually can extend medicine more broadly. And one of my colleagues who's a material scientist is an expert on creating fabrics. And he's designing a fabric with sensing built into it, out of which you could create a blouse or a smock. An expectant mother wears it, and the fabric senses the vital signs of the fetus, not the mother, and ships that to a clinician. So that you can say, don't worry, that's just the fetus kicking, or, you know what, come in and see us because we want to check out what's going on. These are moonshots. They may not work, but they're the kinds of things that MIT wants to think about, of using engineering to impact other areas. These are less AI-based, but many of the examples I've shown you have been in that setting. And so what I wanted to give you was a flavor of how AI is dramatically changing, at least for MIT, the way we think about tackling problems in medicine. Every example I showed you involves a partnership with a clinician or a surgeon and an engineer or a scientist at MIT. I will tell you that the only downside, in my perspective, of doing this is the MIT people need to go over to the hospital because the clinicians are too busy to come to MIT. And that's okay, because by being in the hospital, we get to see what are the problems that really matter to the practitioner and how do we make it happen. And with that, I think we'll take some questions. Thank you.
May I please invite Professor Anjali Sastry, Senior Lecturer at MIT Sloan School of Management, as our moderator. Everybody, Professor Anjali Sastry.
Hi, everyone. We're getting Eric set up with his mic. I have the great pleasure of taking the next 10 minutes or so to field some questions from you and work in a few of my own, if I may. That was really exciting, mind-boggling, Eric, to hear of the vast array of efforts that are afoot across MIT and the promise they hold for revolutionizing how we deliver healthcare and improving its efficiency, increasing its reach, and reducing human misery. I love that you started with our educational approach. And I was thinking about how all these themes interrelate. Eric talked about the value of a common ground curriculum, which has been a hallmark of MIT education for a long time. That allows teamwork in a new way when you all understand. For instance, in my era, it was math. If you all understand calculus, no matter what part of MIT you're from, you've had to master it, then it means you can have a conversation with anyone and work with teammates at a much more advanced level. And in education, I think that's one of the big kind of needs and challenges we face. If we want collaboration at the highest level, what's the common language and grounding we all need? That's a link there, because that enables the teamwork that gives rise to the innovations like the ones you heard about here today. So I wonder if there are questions from the room. I'm not sure what is the method. Are we running around with a mic for questions from the room? So be thinking about those. Well, I think I'm going to lead with an actual question rather than just a riff. I'm thinking about we saw a glimpse of the technical innovation enabled by AI. What do you think about the other forms of innovation in healthcare delivery that AI might enable? An obvious example is reducing some of the drudgery involved with note-taking, right?
Yeah.
That's a kind of, are there others that you think of?
Yeah, they're good. I'm going to start, if I may, with a number, just to show you how MIT has changed, and then I'll answer your question. We have 1,050 faculty, mostly in engineering and science. We did a survey recently of how many of them are directly involved in medical research, and the definition was they have an NIH grant or they do work that would clearly be eligible for an NIH grant. And the answer is about 400 of that 1,000 faculty are involved in that. So they come from every part of the institute, and it shows how we've changed. But Anjali, to your question, I think record keeping is a great example of this, and we've had colleagues build systems. This is even before ChatGPT, and with ChatGPT it will be even easier, that will take imagery, lab results, doctors' handwritten notes, other information, family histories, genetic results, and pull it all together into a coherent summary for the clinician. And one of the nice things about the system is it will also say, by the way, here are the 20 most similar cases that have been in this setting in the past, and here were the treatments in those cases. I would want to add one other thing, though, which, quick full disclosure, I started working in AI in 1975, which in those days, AI was something you scraped off the bottom of your shoe. It was not very popular. I say it because I think you want to approach these systems with a little bit of skepticism. This system will create a nice summary of the case, but the expert still needs to look at that summary and say, does it make sense? You don't want the system to hallucinate something that leads to a treatment that is simply inappropriate, and that's one of the challenges of an AI system.
Well, and I was thinking there are other uses you could put AI to that may aid in that. I don't know if any of you've read Jerome Groopman's book, How Doctors Think, but in there, one of his pieces of advice to us patients and families is to ask the physician, what else could it be, right? So AI doesn't necessarily only need to land on the most probable. You could also ask it for the most extreme and try to really use it as a partner in your thinking. That's what we really work on teaching our students too. So the creativity of AI could be used to spur your consideration set and thought process.
One other example I would give, and I'm sure there'll be other people here who will talk about it, but AI has the ability to personalize the treatment much more than in the past. And it's, again, pulling all of the information together to talk about a very specific thing you want to do with that patient.
Targeting and personalization are going to revolutionize. They already have, but that's going to be a massive shift, especially in treatment and prevention. All right, do we have folks wanting to ask a question of? Good one, excellent. Mike's going to help warm us up for the next conversation with the question here.
Sure. Yeah. No, it was great to see all the amazing things going on at MIT. Since it was a long time ago that I was a student there. But you touched on a little bit one of the big challenges in technology in general, which is how do you get things, brilliant ideas, great collaborations with Harvard and other clinicians, but how do you get things into a product? And yes, there's some small business SBR kinds of grants, but how do you help sort of foster an ecosystem that really helps that translation over, what's sometimes called the valley of death between good idea, but it takes a lot of just brick and mortar, a lot of challenges to actually get things into a product, because if it isn't a product, then it doesn't help people in the end, so.
Yeah, it's a great question, and as always, I'll give you two parts of the answer, which is what we're notorious for. Some of that will come from partnering with existing corporations. That's why, again, we've been delighted to have, as I said, a partnership with Takeda, a partnership with IBM, a partnership with a number of other places that will help make it happen. But some of it will also come from building an ecosystem that encourages that startup kind of energy. And Mike, I'll give you two examples, and Stanford is also great at this, but a number that shows you how MIT thinks about it. We did a study a few years ago out of the Sloan School where we tried to estimate how many companies are there anywhere in the world with the property that one of the founders is an MIT graduate and they're still active in the company. So HP would not count, Bose would not count it. You get the idea. Our count was 30,500 such companies. We only have 140,000 living alumni. They've generated 4.5 million jobs, and if you put their gross annual revenues together, it would have been 1.9 trillion US dollars. So if we were a sovereign nation, we would have been the 9th largest economy in the world. We're not. The governor of Massachusetts is a little annoyed that we aren't, but and Stanford will have similar numbers. But part of what we do to encourage that at MIT is to find ways to encourage students to explore, to get mentoring, and this I think happened yesterday here, to get knowledge about how do you think about finding a partner? How do you think about dealing with approvals from agencies that have to govern this? How do you look for funding that will take place on it? And at least for us, one of the things we think is important is to create ecosystems that are patient. If I want to create a new app for my cell phone, it takes well, I can't, but somebody will do it in a couple of years. But as you'll know very well, you want to create a new application, a new technology in medicine, that takes much more time. And so for MIT, we started something called the Engine, intended to be a very patient incubator. But for people interested, I think finding somebody who's going to have the patience to get you there, but especially finding the partners that will make it happen, is really going to be important. Otherwise, the ideas sit in a lab somewhere and they don't go anywhere, and that's not effective.
Great. We have time for just another question. Yes, in the middle.
And while we get the mic, I'm thinking we have these deep collaborations such as Microsoft leading to Project Athena, or IBM Health, or Takeda, which I have benefited from in my own teaching and research. But we also have many small-scale collaborations that put students and faculty in interaction with companies large and small, from startups to massive companies that have been around for a long time. And that gets folks thinking about the steps needed to get an idea into the real world. Not everything is launched as a startup. Sometimes it's licensed or even open sourced, but shared with those who can make use of it. So that's another huge venue of impact. Please.
Thank you. So I'm a recent grad from UC Berkeley from the US, and it's a pleasure to be here and hear this talk. Can you explain more about the MIT MGB seed program, how that selection process is, what insights have you generated, as well as what you look for in those faculty projects to decide whether they get funding or don't get funding? Thank you.
Sorry, what was the question?
The MGB. Seed program under HEALS.
Yeah, so I gather that, sorry, my hearing is not great. The question was, how do we make the decisions on what things to fund? It's a panel that is equally composed of people from Mass General and the Brigham and people from MIT. And it's like any panel on any, an NSF or any other kind of setting, it's looking at what's the likely impact, how likely is it to succeed, and especially in this case, is there a strong partner on each side? If there isn't somebody on the hospital side really passionate about doing this, we won't do it, or we won't fund it from that mechanism. We'll fund it some other way. Part of the way we help make that happen is we have a dating game. Actually, it's not a game, but we do a day where we'll go over to the hospitals. Faculty will go over to the hospitals. We'll spend a day talking to clinicians and surgeons to find the place where, oh, you're really interested in this problem. I've got a technique that I hadn't thought about that could apply to that problem, and that will lead to finding those connections. The last thing we'll do is we are actively raising additional funds because out of that first 100 applications, we only funded about 10. We'd like to double to triple that number, and we will do it because we think they're all really exciting.
Excellent. The point I was going to make too, massive interest in doing that. And the same idea you had to launch the MGB HEALS fellowships, we are actually working on this week right here in Bangkok.
Great.
Because we are launching a workshop-based 3-day course that actually starts with talking to clinicians at Siriraj Hospital. So I'm really excited that we're going to actually be pioneering something similar right here.
Good.
And with that, Eric is around. I'm sure you'll make a beeline for him at the breaks and dig in more to this fascinating topic. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much, Professor Eric Grimson and Professor Anjali Sastry, for those valuable insights into AI medicine and how engineers and doctors can collaborate together. Up next, we'll continue with our second keynote, Early Insights into Cardiovascular Risk, Aging, and Vision Health using AI Retinal Screening.
In this session, we will be joined by Professor Michelle McConnell, Clinical Professor at Stanford University, Chief Health Officer at Toku Health, and former Google Head of Cardiovascular Health. Professor Michelle is an alumni at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, obtaining his BS and MS in Electrical Biomedical Engineering, followed by his MD at Stanford University. His early research discovery in echocardiography has become known as McConnell sign. He joined the faculty at Stanford in 1998, and went on to become professor of cardiovascular medicine and electrical engineering and molecular and cellular physiology. He was director of cardiovascular MRI, preventive cardiology clinic, and cardiovascular health innovation at Stanford, and also founded and directed the cardiovascular imaging at Stanford CVIS NIH training program. He is now the Chief Health Officer at Toku and Advanced AI and retinal imaging for screening and prevention of major health conditions.
And Dr. Rebecca Mitchell, Managing Partner of Scrub Capital. Scrub Capital is a venture capital firm reshaping early-stage healthcare, investing using a unique model, unites clinicians, founders, operators, and technology experts as LPs and active partners in fund operations. These clinicians actively participate in deal sourcing, portfolio support, and knowledge sharing to drive impactful investments. Before becoming a VC, Rebecca was one of the first clinical product leaders in health tech, leading products at startup and public companies that reach tens of millions of patients worldwide. Please join me in welcoming on stage Dr. Michael McConnell and Dr. Rebecca Mitchell.
I think I'll kick us off. Thanks so much for the invitation to be here. It's been a great several days already, and excited to talk a bit more about, as you can see from the title, we heard just a great keynote that really covered all the opportunities around technology and healthcare. I think I've been asked really to dive a bit more deeply into an area that I've been working on for several years now, really because that journey, I think, is informative about how we bring technologies into products that can then benefit patients. My disclosure, so I'm Chief Health Officer at Toku. I'm an advisor with the American Heart Association and several other startups, and a limited partner at Scrub Capital. Other disclosure, if you want to learn everything about heart disease and what you can do to fight it, I wrote a book. The proceeds of the book go to charities. So sorry, this is a busy slide, but I wanted to, one of the things that Stanford Biodesign teaches, and I'm sure MIT teaches, is you really have to start off with what's the clinical problem you have to solve, or start with what the need is. So we have this growing problem around the world of what now the Heart Association calls cardiovascular kidney metabolic syndrome, that all of these diseases are growing and they interact. So if you have cardiovascular disease, you're more likely to develop kidney disease. If you have metabolic disease, you're more likely to develop cardiovascular disease. So they've developed this new framework of cardiovascular kidney metabolic health. And as a preventive cardiologist, what I find very challenging and the big clinical need is rarely are these diseases detected early, and which means you're not treating or reversing the disease. And so typically then when people first present, it's already with a heart attack, a stroke. You know, we heard in some of the presentations, leg amputation from diabetes. So there's a huge benefit for detecting early. I cite some examples there. For statin therapy to prevent heart attacks and strokes, our main therapy in most of the world, less than 10% of people who should be on it are on it. Even in developed countries, it's only about 50%. And then common conditions like hypertension or diabetes are often, people are unaware, they're not well treated. So really we're starting off with how do we do earlier detection so that we can use all the prevention methods we have to prevent these serious diseases. So I'm going to focus on retinal imaging. So a high-resolution photo of the back of your eye. You see arteries, veins, nerves. So it's really the only place that both vascular tissue and neurologic tissue are directly visible. And interestingly, cardiovascular disease changes in the retina has been recognized back in the 1960s. I think one of the things always to take away from that is when you think you have a brand new idea that nobody's ever thought of, 99% of the time somebody's already thought about it. They may not have solved the problem, but it's always good to look back and see what people did earlier so you can learn from that. The big change really over the last several years has been how AI can really accelerate and improve our ability to analyze these images. I'd like to just take a step back. We heard about machine learning. So the first part of the story was when I was at Google, and a lot of the scientists there and engineers had used machine learning to train so that when you upload your photos, it can distinguish a cat from a dog. And so the concept of machine learning, as opposed to, right, I had to learn sort of early AI and chatbot in the 1970s also when I was a student there. But the concept of machine learning flips. Instead of programming the computer, telling it how to distinguish it, you just give the computer lots of examples of cats and dogs, and then it learns how to see the differences. Well, if you take that exact methodology, now apply it to retinal images, and let the machine learn, and so you give it thousands of examples of healthy retinal images and thousands of examples of retinopathy, guess what? The machine ends up being very, very good at distinguishing that. So really the big sort of breakthrough paper that colleagues at Google had done in the JAMA was showing that it had this very, very high accuracy for detecting diabetic retinopathy, which is a leading cause of blindness around the world. So the idea that this machine learning algorithm could really, and the little dots there you see as they blow up the graph, are sort of where human readers ended up their accuracy. So it shows you the dark line there is showing that the algorithm is matching human readers. And actually one of the first places that Google partnered with to deploy this in community health settings was here in Thailand. So, and they have multiple publications out of that work showing that it was very effective, that the AI in the real world, in a community national screening program that the AI worked as well as the human readers. So much more ability to scale and provide this for many more people. This is now 3 different companies in the United States have had FDA clearance for diabetic retinopathy AI tools. And Stanford has followed Thailand's lead and now includes in their primary care clinics the ability to run AI. So you see your primary care doctor instead of waiting months and having a long appointment to see the eye doctor. You just walk over to the machine and get your screening done right there. So sort of a short version here. You can go into an eye care clinic or a primary care clinic. It uses a standard retinal camera. It takes a minute or 2 to take the picture. The AI can run in 30 seconds. And then you're either told, come back next year, or you may need referral if disease is found. So when that team at Google started experimenting around training the machine to look for other things, they actually started off and said, well, can we train it to detect your age or sex or blood pressure or glucose level just from machine learning from the retina? And it turned out you could actually detect all of those things pretty well. And so then they called me up and said, this sounds like a cardiovascular risk score. So when we look at someone's risk for heart attack and stroke, we put all those data together. So, and basically we ended up showing that the AI analysis of your retina could predict your risk of a future heart attack or stroke, very similar to the existing risk score. This was from the UK Biobank data. But obviously it takes, as we were talking on the earlier keynote, to bring something into clinical care, there are a lot of steps that have to happen. This area of detecting systemic disease from the retina was then first called oculomics back in 2020. And you can see the NIH has now set up working groups to try to understand how do we develop more of these cardiovascular biomarkers. And then a group of both industry and academics and nonprofit organizations have come together to form an alliance to try to, what we call, deliver healthcare from the eye. So as you can see at the bottom, combining retinal images with AI, now there's a lot of data around not only cardiovascular, but metabolic diseases, certainly eye diseases, neurologic disease, kidney disease. So a big opportunity to detect a wide range of diseases earlier. The company that I'm Chief Health Officer, Toku, so in many ways, this is trying to take the idea that Google had first published and how do we create a product to get it through all the steps out into the real world, similar to what's been done for diabetic retinopathy screening. So in many ways, it's similar to the Google model. It's trained on things like blood pressure, hemoglobin A1C, and also trained on lots of the changes in the retina that can happen with cardiovascular disease. And all of that is put together and trained against your cardiovascular risk. So the goal is actually to match the American Heart Association guidelines for who has elevated cardiovascular risk and would benefit from being on statin therapy, which is sort of the main treatment to reduce your risk of heart attack or stroke. So as part of that, an important lesson as you're thinking about the ecosystem to help you bring products from idea into actual real-world use. The Heart Association is one example. They have an innovators network that helps startup companies like Toku make sure that we follow the guidance, follow guidelines, that we address important clinical needs in alignment with the Heart Association guidelines. And obviously it's important that you publish your data along the way. So we've done retrospective analyses on different data sets. So it's important that you look at different data sets. AI notoriously can perform well on the data set you train, but then not perform well on a different data set. So there's an expectation, certainly at the FDA, that you will demonstrate that it works in a diverse population. So again, we've done retrospective and then small prospective studies, but really the main thing that the FDA expects is to do a prospective multi-site clinical trial. So the good news for us, we've finished our enrollment, but as mentioned, we use 10 sites, both eye care and primary care clinics with demographic and geographic diversity. We collected retinal images with 2 different standard cameras. We also collected the health data at the same time so we could run the ASCVD, that's sort of the standard cardiovascular risk score. With then what we need to show to the FDA and submit is that we have a high sensitivity and specificity for detecting this elevated risk and that it works again across the different subgroups. So the last topic I wanted to mention, I was asked to chat about too, which is how do we use retinal imaging around what's called biologic aging. So with a lot of interest in longevity now and people trying to take more ownership of their health, analyzing a biologic age from your eye gives you a way to see how does your retina compare to others of the same age. Does it look like it's aging more rapidly or more slowly? Obviously, it's better to be aging more slowly. So a number of studies have talked about this age gap. If you have a positive age gap, your biologic age looks worse than your others of your same chronologic age. That is associated with multiple health risks, including both cardiovascular disease and cancer. So in many ways, this can provide a personalized health and wellness assessment to motivate improving lifestyle and other health factors, and also make sure you've had your health status checked. So Toku does have a bioage. I think one of the valuable lessons for developing a company or product is this falls into an FDA wellness use case. So it's something that we could actually start deploying early on. So we're now deployed in over 200 clinics, and that gives us a lot of experience for when we envision getting our cardiovascular risk tool. So the sooner you can get a version of your product into customers' hands and learn from that and improve it. And at the same time, we've done research to show that an accelerated bioage correlates with many of those CKM, cardio, kidney, metabolic. So shorter telomere length as a biologic marker of accelerated aging, and then as listed there, higher prevalence of underlying problems like high blood pressure, chronic kidney disease, and diabetes. And then other groups have been showing a range of health risks associated with retinal biologic age. So you can see cardiovascular disease. The middle publication from Age and Aging showed both cardiovascular and cancer mortality associated with biologic aging, and another UK Biobank study showing risk for kidney failure. So lastly, I think in many ways, as you're trying to build a consensus around using a new technology like retinal AI across a wide range of diseases, it's important to think about building a network and cross-disciplinary collaboration. Because you can see as a patient comes in and is potentially getting one of these screening assessments, there can be many different settings, from a physician's office to a pharmacy, and then there needs to be collaboration between the eye care professional, primary care, and then a specialist as needed. You need to take into account that there are important challenges as you use AI, right? You want to make sure that this is helping increase access to affordable health care. You're going to be responsible about the data. You're going to make sure you don't, when you identify a risk, that you help coordinate care for the patient. And ultimately, how do you make this a sustainable program? So a couple of efforts. There's a collaborative around innovation in ophthalmology. That's the CCOI. And then Topcon, one of our collaborators who recently acquired Toku, they have set up an environment where researchers who want to have access to large data sets of retinal imaging to develop new products have launched this idea. So if interested, let me know. But yeah, so AI retinal imaging is a rapid point-of-care method for early detection of patients with elevated health risks. It's really demonstrated strong power already in diabetic retinopathy screening around the world. There's the emerging area of assessing risk for systemic diseases, including cardiovascular disease, to promote early preventive therapy. And then a biologic age from your retina provides a relative measure of health to motivate improvement. And I think it really, given its non-invasive and easy methodology, it's really a very promising approach to broaden access to prevention for everyone. Thank you very much.
Please join me in welcoming on stage Dr. Rebecca Mitchell, co-founder and managing partner of Scrub Capital.
Morning, everybody. So similar to the last, I'll get us started with a couple questions and get yours ready for Dr. McConnell. Dr. McConnell.
Call me Mike.
Usually Mike. So clearly you have done so much to advance the clinical medicine, products, and the actual change to clinical practice needed to bring prevention forward in the United States and really globally. And I know you, so I know this is only the tip of the iceberg too. There's so much more to tell, so definitely find Dr. McConnell afterwards if you're interested in all of this. But something really exciting to me is that in parallel to work like yours happening in medicine right now, is this just surge of consumer and patient, really, interest in prevention, far more than ever before. And it's happening through terms like health span and longevity in particular. So I love this as a trend, but it's also often happening outside of typical kind of care delivery in the person's primary care team and the health system they perhaps are part of, through startups, or they're following kind of, some people call them thought leaders, others call them quacks and bros on social media, talking about this. So I'd love to hear why you think this is happening, one. Two, if there's anything we can learn from these companies and individuals. And yeah, I guess just three, if anybody's doing a good job bringing that together, that understanding of how to motivate patients and the words they use to think about their own health and prevention with real high quality models.
Yeah, no, I love the question. I sort of hinted at it a little bit with the biologic age part. I think what I've been excited about is somehow the phrase longevity has really captured a lot of people's imagination and make them feel motivated to learn more about their health and to explore ways to do things to improve their health. In many ways, it's similar to what we've always called prevention. but I don't care what word is used as long as sort of the end goal is the same. I think there are a couple of lessons. One, I think a good lesson as you're thinking about doing companies and bringing products to market is that it's an example that our traditional healthcare system has a lot of friction. That term of to get the information you need and get the treatment you need often has many steps, whether that's, it's hard to find parking where the health center you want to go, it's hard to get an appointment, it's hard to get time with your doctor. So, before longevity had started, we had already seen a lot more direct-to-consumer for sort of lower-risk healthcare develop in the United States. So I think one aspect is this ability to get direct information as opposed to having to go through multiple steps and go through other people. I think that's a strong trend in it, and I'm hopeful that that's something we can build on, because many therapies, you use the example of statin therapy for preventing heart attacks and strokes. It's one of the most widely prescribed medications in the world. It's incredibly safe and incredibly effective. But a lot of times people haven't heard about the risk scores and feel like they have to jump through lots of hoops to figure out how to get the best prevention. And so ways that let people get that more directly, I'm totally in favor of. I probably didn't answer all the things that
it was layered.
Up, but yeah.
That's cool. Any questions for Mike before I ask my second question? Jump the line. Yeah, sure.
Hi. Thank you very much for sharing your experience and insights on your projects. My question is regarding your first project when you worked at Google. Why Thailand at that time? I have two questions, and the second question is how important of conducting the multiple center clinical trials when you want to pursue innovation or startup in medical and healthcare, especially digital health and medical AI. Thank you very much.
Sure, yeah. If you look now at most publications of trying to show AI works well for detecting different health conditions, there's now a very strong expectation that you can't just train on a population and prove it on that population. You want to have external validation, so you use data sets that were not involved at all and are different than what was used for the training and sort of initial testing. So even for retrospective data analysis, there's a strong expectation of having proof for multiple other data sets. In the FDA in the US, the ophthalmology branch was very forward-thinking in doing the diabetic retinopathy approval. One of the things I didn't mention, it was the first approved as an autonomous AI, meaning it does not require a clinician to go and re-review the images, because honestly, it was really designed for primary care, and while all of us in medical school learned to look, with an ophthalmoscope, we all lost the ability to look at retinal images well if we're not an ophthalmologist. So I think the FDA has been very sensitive to, because this is at least in their work so far, that these are autonomous, does not require, a review of the images, that they really want to make sure it works on the specific camera you're using, that it works across a diverse US population. So, and that's typically you have sites in different parts of the US, that you have a good distribution, obviously men, women, and that your racial ethnicity groups match sort of the US population. So, which, I think it makes sense to do that. It's a lot more burden on the company to have to organize a trial that way, but people want to feel confident in how well the product works, it makes a lot of sense.
Do we have time for one more? Anybody else? I think he's pointing to the back. Oh. Way in the back. 2 hands up in the air.
Hi, Ribu from MSU. I'd like to actually ask about the reimbursement pathway. How do you actually make it, or actually how, the road to actually, do you have a code already, or how does it work?
So yeah, you brought up a challenge with new products. There is a code for diabetic retinopathy done by AI. So that's a good example of, there was a multi-year effort by companies in the area to help develop a novel code. And for those who don't, in the United States, you can bill if you have a certain kind of code, for certain kinds of insurance. So I would say that's sort of the next challenge after the FDA clearance. There are different incentives for different kinds of healthcare providers. We've worked with optometry clinics that sort of offer it as a bundle, within a bundle of the services that they provide. We've certainly started talking with, in the US, vision insurance is separate from medical insurance. And, Congress and the FDA and CMS is one of the main insurers in the United States, have tried to put in programs to accelerate new codes being developed for novel technologies. But it's often a multi-year process that, needs, and the sooner you can start thinking about that and building consensus, the better. But yes, that remains sort of the next big challenge. To create a sustainable business, people have to pay you for your services. So.
Yeah, one really fascinating thing that I'm aware of a work group coming together around, at least in the United States, around codes for AI products, is so much of the codes in the US are based upon an assumption of amount of time that a human's going to spend to accomplish a task. And of course, for clinical AI, this goes out the window. And so a lot of our whole logic system for reimbursing care breaks down. So I do know there's a surgence of interest in this. So as the investor side, I'm hopeful this is cracked open.
Yeah, and the FDA, had formed earlier this year, and they just have a meeting this month, sort of a digital health working group to try to get that expertise. And it's one, that CCOI group that I brought up for ophthalmologic innovations. They have a working group on the reimbursement side and how do you develop the evidence for new codes, and so work in progress, but yeah, great. It's a key part to bringing this to market.
Other questions? We have time for more. Here.
Okay, thanks very much. Wei Yang from the Singapore Management University. I thought the question brought up one maybe more fundamental issue of the way that we are looking at health going forward. It's almost as if you are trying to make use of some of this data. You have a lot of evidence to make you confident that it's going to work, and yet people are still asking you to do a clinical trial. Of course, part of it is because maybe we demand payment upfront for the medical products that we are trying to administer. We ask for a claim code as well. But given the way that healthcare is developing, is it time for us to do a rethink to say that I'll just roll it out, the real evidence will take care of itself, and I'll ask for payment maybe 3 years later when the evidence is very clear that my product has actually generated value. But instead of then now trying to jump through all the hoops to show that the product makes sense so that I can claim the payment up front, which actually costs a lot of money, should we not use that money to push out the sort of the treatment early to as many people as possible, and then see that as an investment for the recouping of payments in the longer run, from a system that is actually already able to track many of these outcomes in the long run. So it's a very fundamental rethink of how we should be thinking about payments and the health systems.
Spicy.
So the question is are we getting close to that possibility based on the conversations you are having with the FDA and so on?
Yeah, so you do bring up one aspect is there are systems that focus more on value-based care, and so the expectation is you're not necessarily getting paid for each use, but the fact that you're going to improve outcomes or save money down the road. So, there are opportunities to work with value-based care in the US. A lot of employers want to be able to offer things for earlier detection that standard insurance doesn't necessarily do. So there are many opportunities there. I think I guess there's also an FDA approach of, can you make sure there's you're not doing any harm, and then let something out earlier, and then it's all post-market surveillance data collection. So that model does exist. And then I think the other is, you need investors with a longer term, you need ways to sustain a company over time if you're putting off the revenue part. So.
You had a good example of launching for a wellness use case and then capturing data, right, to then get compensated for others. So I think we see that pretty often. Not as often as we'd like, but
yeah.
Happens. Yeah. Other questions? Okay. I will close us out asking one more then. So I liked the quote from the last keynote, like AI used to be something you scraped off your shoe. And I remember it wasn't that long ago where it wasn't just AI, but it was digital health, health tech, M-health, whatever you called it. You were really one of the earliest physicians that fully embraced it, not only as an academic and did that too, but you were in there building it from the really early days at startups, big tech, kind of everything in between. And what I've been so impressed by over the last few days is just meeting really all of you, right, who are figuring out how to work together to make this industry happen in Thailand and all of Southeast Asia. And would love if you perhaps could close sharing a few words of wisdom for how to really get physicians engaged, hearts and minds, not just as people studying the problem, receiving the products, implementing them, but collaboratively building them with others.
Yeah, I'd say thanks for the kind words. I'd say a lot of it is really pursuing what you're super excited to try to solve in a big way. And at the time I was at Stanford and I did a lot of imaging and I was trying to image early heart disease, and I took over the preventive cardiology clinic, and what most people were struggling with was making healthy decisions on a day-to-day basis of being more active and eating healthier and trying to be more engaged with their own prevention. And while I'm still a big fan of imaging, it can be very expensive when you work on a $3 million MRI scanner, and all these mobile wearable devices were coming out, and that, the big goal was how do we do more prevention at scale, right? And at the time, big tech was the place that was farther along with things like machine learning and mobile wearable devices. I think academic institutions have caught up and have been really engaged, and there are lots of now startups in this environment. So I think it's, try to pursue what you're super passionate about to try to solve, and I think there are lots of other people who want to work with you to do that. And I think, not only here in Thailand, but really around the world, there's a growing culture around innovation. And excitingly for me, there's a recognition we have to go, so to speak, upstream and try to catch disease earlier. And, technology has been a great way to enable that.
Well, thank you for all you do in addition to
Thank
being
you.
here today.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you to Dr. Michael McConnell and Dr. Rebecca Mitchell for sharing such insightful perspectives. Up next, we'll be hearing from a leader in Thailand's financial and digital innovation landscape.
Please join me in welcoming Mr. Payong Srivanich, CEO of Krungthai Bank, who will be presenting on Payong, Better Health for All Thais. Mr. Payong Srivanich is the CEO of Krungthai Bank, PCL, with his extensive banking and global markets experience. He holds a strong and solid record of many successful transformations, including the introduction of Payong, an opening digital platform that everyone, whether Krungthai Bank customers or not, can use by offering its 40 million users a wide range of accessible products and services covering finance, healthcare, lifestyles, saving, and investment. Payong contributes to reducing inequality in access to the digital economy and developing the country's economy and society. He has been recognized as Banking CEO of the Year Thailand 2024 from Global Banking and Finance Review UK. Best CEO of the Year, Thailand 2024 from Global Business and Finance Magazine USA. Mr. Payong, the stage is yours.
Well, thank you. Professor Eric Grimson, Dean Apichat, distinguished guests and scholars, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. It is such a great pleasure to have me joining and participating in this very exciting and purpose-driven conference. And you will be surprised on what is banking having to do with health and wellness. And that is what it comes about better health for all Thais. If you look at the health and wellness, it is definitely the foundation of any economy in the world. Banking reflects the stage of how well each economy is doing and how its citizens are happy or not happy. So if you look at the world, the economy of the world today is facing many challenges, from geopolitical risk, aging society, technological disruption, and also the changing in human behavior dynamics of how they live, and urbanization. And when you look at the state of Thai economy, we are facing many things that affecting life, things like inequality, things like informal economy, and high household debt. And when you look at the one of the key objectives and concern that the United Nations have raised, it is about the health and wellness of global citizens. And if you look at the Sustainable Development Goal, number 3, it states, ensure healthy life and promote well-being for all at all ages. And that means that does your citizens, and it means everyone in any particular country, has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and their family. And when you look at the economy and the prosperity of any country, it definitely depends on the state of health and wellness of its citizens. And therefore, for the majority of our citizens, do we have adequate social safety nets to be at least be the baseline for them to be able to generate the needed economic outcome? And if you look at the state of Thai economy, we've been having a very slow growth for many past years, even comparing to our peer countries. And if you look forward into the next 5 years by IMF, we will continue to have slowest growth in the region. Definitely, we're not part of the world growth equation. And if you look at the structure of Thai economy, you will see that 48% is in the informal economy, among the largest in the world, and this is from the World Bank. And within 48% of informal economy, we have 53% of informal labor. And within that, we have about 68 million citizens, only about 11 or 12 million file income tax. And out of that, only 4 million does pay income tax. This is the structure of our economy. So if you zoom in to the study of the World Bank, you will see things that comes with informal economy, the 6 challenges. One is about the low income and potential low income. Second is about the high degree of poverty and inequality. And the third one is the low resilience. We are living in a very highly uncertain world, facing things like climate change. And we don't have enough cushion to deal with such shock that keep coming back to hit us, things like COVID-19, the pandemic, and all the way to all the natural disaster. Not to mention about how can we sustain the sustainable growth. And right after President Trump tariff, the 3 largest private sector institutions, the Federation Thai Trade Industries, the Thai Chamber of Commerce, and the Thai Bankers Association, has gotten together with the technical agency, namely the National Economic and Social Development Board, the Bank of Thailand, and the Fiscal Policy Office. We have gotten together and come up with what we call a forum to co-create and reinvent Thailand. And we have highlighted the 3 main issues of the country. One is about the productivity, which happen to do with structural fragility. The second one is about the high household debt, which happen to affect the economic level of each household. And the last part is about government efficiency. You talk about corruption all the way to the ability of the government to look after its citizens. If I may zoom in, these 3 big problem statements that we've identified, we would require the 3 must-have foundation from education, rule of law, and the health and wellness. So let's zoom in into the health and wellness. What does it mean to the citizen and Thai economy? You have about 68 million citizens, yet majority is in the informal economy, yet only 4 million pay income tax, and over 60 million demand the state welfare. What does it mean? From the pregnant mothers to the newly born, to the age that you have to go to school, being educated, and along the way, you need the safety net at different level of your age. Whether you're in the category of the welfare card, whether you're in the category of social security, whether you're in the category of civil servants, you need the state-supported welfare or the Medicare. Then along the way, you also have the disabled people that you have to look after. And once you get to the aging society, which Thailand is on the forefront of that with the low productivity economic environment, we are facing a big upcoming tsunami of the economy. And this is the trap. And that is why I mentioned about the Reinvent Thailand framework has been created. It's the co-creation for execution. It's not belong to any particular party, and together between private sector, government, and financial sector, we co-own this. And the reason I'm bringing this up, it is exactly the same framework and spirit as Siriraj and MIT Hacking Medicine. It is a co-creation framework, and it is a forum where everyone can participate. And we want all the good ideas and great execution from everywhere around the world into Thailand. And if you look into this, the objective of the Reinvent Thailand, which again is similar to the spirit of Siriraj and MIT Hacking Medicine event, is first, is the shared commitment to all stakeholders. We don't point fingers. Second one, you need to look at it from the end-to-end perspective, up the value chain and all the way to the bottom of the value chain. You need to clearly identify the ownership of each of the subtasks and focus on result-oriented. And the whole thing has to be driven by data, connected data, to give you adequate insight and also intelligence to make the right decision that will end up with inclusiveness. And at the end of the day, we in the capitalism world, so we need the right incentive that is well reallocated, fairly distributed, and not leaving anyone behind. So this is the spirit of Reinvent Thailand, and I'm glad that it's the same as Siriraj and MIT Hacking Medicine spirit. Then if you look at the context of our discussion, looking at where is the new S-curve of the country, we've identified in this picture you have 5 and recently is added 1 on the retail segment. We focus and zooming in on these 5 priority sector. And one of the 5, or now one of the 6, is the medical and wellness. What does it mean? If you go back to the previous page, we will start from the top of the value chain with shared commitment, data-driven, and result-oriented. So, what you are doing today and this conference, it is part of Reinvent Thailand framework. And it will be focused at the country level, and it is already in the draft of the National Economic and Social Development Board, and it will be among the highlights among the new next 5-year plan. And you may ask, why Krungthai? What is happening with your bank? Our bank happened to be a listed company, a listed bank that is owned 55% by the government, particularly by the Bank of Thailand. And that means that the government or the regulator have 3 roles around Krungthai organization or ecosystem: as a regulator, as a major shareholder, and as a strategic partner. And therefore, on the left-hand side, we are competing as a commercially driven commercial bank. But on the right-hand side, it is part of our vision mission. It is part of our purpose that we must be part of driving the reduction of inequality. And we must be promoting the inclusive economy. Back to our vision. Our vision is growing together for sustainability. And our mission and purpose is to empowering better life for all Thai. And if you zoom into the definition, that is why the better health for all Thais is part of our equation. So if you look at the, then what do we do? Is your mission, is your purpose. We have declared, even before the pandemic, COVID-19, that we, as an organization, as a top bank of the country, we will focus and dive down into the 5 ecosystem. Payment, definitely as a bank, payment is a core ecosystem. I mentioned that the government is a key partner and stakeholders in the previous page. And the other three ecosystem is the basic need of human life. And part of that is healthcare and the wellness. So then what have we done? If you go and search in Gemini and look at Payong, which since before 2000, it's about 2018, we have decided to develop what we call an open banking platform. Of course, we learned this from other places around the world, particularly Europe. The world is moving toward the open platform, open economy, platform economy, and yet banking is part of that open banking. And ultimately, banking will be a subset of open platform and open economy. So we've developed Payong, which in Thai, Payong in English means wallet, simply just your traditional wallet. So we've created that with the open platform mindset, open architecture, modularized, cloud native. So we've developed with that things in mind right before COVID. And yet, we have been able to support the government in crisis using our technology capability of so-called open digital platform to support the health and wellness, to help government combating the pandemic. That was why if you search Gemini or even Copilot or ChatGPT, public health is one of the keywords in there. Social welfare is also another keyword in there. Then what have we done? When we have the wallet to make payments, to drive financial transactions, the same can be applicable to the health and wellness. That was the thought of the team. That was the thought of the startup team within Krungthai, the same that was co-created and is being worked on at the Siriraj and MIT Hacking Medicine event. The thought has become reality before the pandemic. And therefore, the same technology has been asked by the government to support the government effort to combat the pandemic. So the platform has been developed, extended to support the registration to get the vaccination. It needs to be registered. Also, it supported the distribution of antigen test kit across the country. We have limited resources, registration. We allow government to have the data and ensure the inclusiveness to look after the citizens. So the platform has been extended from Payong, or the wallet, to support the health element. And we call that a health wallet within Payong. So that was the first exercise, the first mandate that we have been involved. So it is the access not only to address the health issue, but to prevent and promote the services. We also ensure that any Thai citizens that have the citizens number can also check their right at any point of their life. What right do they have from the government to look after their health or Medicare? We also have and extend this to many other services in collaboration with government agencies. What else have we done? We also cooperate with the National Health Security Office to ensure the coverage and promotion. We also work with the Social Security Office to ensure that the labor have access to the record and the coverage. We also work with government civil servants through Ministry of Finance to ensure that all civil servants understand and have the record of their medical benefits. All these are on our Payong platform. And if you look at lately, we have been working to ensure that the telemedicine can be enabled and support with Krungthai technology capability. So on one hand, we have helped developing what we call Health Link with government and other medical agencies to enable patients to be able to register and consent so that their health record can be shared and is on blockchain. On the other hand, we provide doctors digital identity to understand the scope of their ability and right to look at the health record that is being shared by the patient. So this infrastructure is already in place in Thailand and it's been supported by Krungthai. And all this in summary, please allow me to end the conversation by why it is relevant. We extend our digital platform capability as well as our footprint for national coverage to reach out to all the citizens, ensure that online and offline are work seamlessly for the benefit of the citizens, to cooperate with key government agencies and stakeholders to cover and ensure nationwide connectivity, to empower Thai people, and to extend that reach to the pharmacy to be able to access anytime, anywhere. So it can reduce the load and the traffic of the hospital and leave the capacity to those who really need it, in addition to convenient and the cost to access. And this is the, just a few pictures that excuse me, sorry. This is the picture that, if I may just show how we connect to the world. Sorry, it didn't come up. But that ends my story. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Payong Srivanich, CEO of Krungthai Bank, for the inspiring presentation on how digital platform can empower better health access for all.
That concludes our morning sessions for today. Please take this time to enjoy a coffee break kindly provided by our sponsors. We'll resume shortly at 10:50 with our next keynote sessions. So please be back by 10:50. For now, please enjoy the coffee break outside. Thank you.